Hello, welcome to Vocal Medicine. I'm Kathleen Carlson. Today I'm talking about Edgar Cayce. My own spiritual path began with Edgar Cayce when I was a teenager. So I was studying other things before that. As soon as I could read, I was studying anything that was supernatural, which in the elementary school library was basically ghosts. So I was studying paranormal things and also healing. So those were my two interests. And when I got to be a teenager, when I was 16 or 17, number one, could drive a car. Number two, had a job, so I had some money. I started attending spiritual conferences. And the first place that I went was the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. And that was founded based on the readings of Edgar Cayce. So Edgar Cayce is known as the sleeping prophet. He was an American psychic who went into a trance state and started with medical readings where he would be able to discern what was wrong with someone. If there was a childhood accident that had happened, that the damage had been undetected, that kind of thing. And he could prescribe various treatments, which sometimes were outside of the medical realm, dietary things, adjustments in lifestyle and whatever. And so he became famous for that. But at a certain point, he started revealing information in the readings that had to do with things like reincarnation, ancient civilizations like Atlantis, Lemuria. And one of the things that came forward was a lifetime that he was said to have had, that the readings said that he had back in Egypt. So the conference that I attended on that particular topic was called The Ancient Healing Temples of Egypt. So I was a high school student at the time. I loved music and art. I played the piano. I was an artist, just took art classes. I was always doing watercolors and drawings and illustrations. And so I had a love for art and music. And what really caught my attention in that conference was the story of his lifetime as an Egyptian priest named RaTa, and his travels in Egypt, outside of Egypt, and the fact that at one point in his life, he was an old man. He was over 100 years old, and he was called back to Egypt to assist in the ruling of that country. And when he got back there, because he was elderly and he had spent a lot of time in his travels and in the time that he was exiled from Egypt, which is a whole other story, he spent a lot of time in isolation. And he had been meditating a lot and learning to contact the natural forces within himself. So he goes back to Egypt, and they want him to assist in ruling the country and taking on that role of the high priest. So he went into one of these healing temples, and the story that was told in this conference was that they had used color and sound, and of course his own ability to go within to not only heal him, but to reverse his age back to a man in his 20s so that he could live long enough to continue to contribute to society. So I heard that, and at the time I planned on going into medicine. I planned to go to medical school, and I was working really hard in high school to get into a good college and then go to medical school. But I ended up going into the art and music. And I was so inspired by the idea that these were really powerful agents for healing. And that was really the origin of what I'm doing today. I did spend about 10 years teaching music. I taught piano. I spent about 5 years teaching art. I worked as a professional artist for about 10 years. And so those were sort of as close as I could get. Took a lot of courses in natural health, studied natural health. And then when I found mantras and found sound, that was the most powerful. That was the closest thing to what I had been inspired by, as a teenager, to make my life's mission. And spent 10 years living in a spiritual community where I did a form of chanting many, many hours every day, to really work on those skills. And now it's been about 10 years studying mantras, practicing, leading workshops, introducing people to the idea of kirtan and studying the science of it. So Edgar Cayce was really the start for me, and that idea of those healing temples and the desire to find a way to use both color and sound for healing. And that took me all the way through a master's degree that I did through California State University, which was in humanities, and my master's thesis was the correlation between color and sound. So going all the way back to the Greeks and then coming forward, and all of the musicians and the artists and the different technologies that have been developed now to try to integrate sound and color, particularly for healing, for psychological healing and for physical healing. So that's where everything came from to be doing what I'm doing today. And I do hope that you find something on this channel that will help you to heal in whatever way you're looking for. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.